It just so happened that even before the official start of sales, these interesting watches fell into my hands. And in this video I will share my experience of using watches and 3, as well as compare them with the incredibly popular Pro 3 GPS. Well, also, according to some parameters, I will also compare them with another device that I use. It seems to me that it will be interesting and useful to all those who are interested in a real smartwatch with the ability to fully install applications and the ability to pay using Google Pay, or a watch for tracking sports training, for which this model is also very well suited. I will be glad if you subscribe to my channel, and a simple human like this video will contribute to the release of new videos on my channel. I will not hide it. One of the main advantages of these watches is not only the operating system from Google in the PC, but also a very pleasant affordable price. They are almost $100 cheaper than the popular model About 3 GPS. At the same time, it is very important that the watch has exactly the same processor for wearable electronics. This is a new Qualcomm of 4100, and they have 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of internal memory. That is, in many respects it is exactly the same watch, made in a different design. But the question is not only in design. The body of the 3 is made entirely of plastic. To be precise, the manufacturer calls it polycarbonate and fiberglass. And the main sign of the absence of metal construction is a very light weight. They are incredibly light in the hand and on the arm. There is no bezel, the screen surface is just a protective glass with a 2.5D effect. Under the glass is one of the main differences between this watch and the Pro 3 GPS model. This is the screen. The screen here is ordinary, liquid crystal, probably IPS. This is the first difference of the screen. And yet, this screen is not double, like the Pro, there is no upper monochrome display. And this is another difference. There is also a diagonal of 1.3 inches and a slightly smaller resolution, 360 by 360 points. From the practical, it feels like the display of the watch is quite high quality. There is absolutely no lack of image quality here. In fact, it is almost impossible to notice a dark frame around the screen due to the fact that the interface of the watch is drawn with a predominance of dark tones, and most of the dials and menus, and the section with widget cards do not allow you to see the frame around the display. Well, if you compare the AMOLED of the E3 clock display head-on, then it looks like this. Brightness, by the way, I set just above the middle and there, and there. The E3 even has a permanently active display mode. This is when the dials are constantly displayed in black and white at low brightness. And in this mode, according to my measurements, the watch loses about 3% of its charge per hour. Well, I think it's not difficult to calculate how much they will be able to work on one charge in this mode. The watch is controlled by a touch screen and 2 buttons. The buttons are pressed quite clearly and have a nice stroke. At the bottom there is a button to start training from the OBO. There are as many as 20 of them, and among them there is even swimming in the pool. Because the watch is protected from moisture according to the IP68 standard, they can be safely immersed in water. I will add from myself, it is better not to lower any devices into salt and hot water. Well, the bottom button can also be reassigned to absolutely any application installed on the watch. The top button allows you to get to the menu. If you hold it, you will be prompted to pay for Google Pay using NFC, and if you hold it longer, you can turn off and restart the clock. The screen sensor also works without comments, the responsiveness is cool, and in general, the whole operating system works briskly, the animations are very smooth, it's very nice, especially in a fairly inexpensive device. On the back side there are sensors for measuring the pulse and oxygen level in the blood, and it is important that the watch is able to measure the pulse and oxygen constantly throughout the day. In addition, the watch is able to measure the user's stress and the noise level around in decibels. Of course, these watches count steps, track physical activity, they are able to remind you of the need to move, they are able to determine 3 types of training in automatic mode. To determine the exact location, the watch has GPS, they also have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5. You can, for example, throw a few music tracks on them, connect Bluetooth headphones to the watch and listen to music during training. It's not very convenient to do this, it's done through third-party programs, but at least there is such an opportunity, and over time Google promises, most likely in the fall, to release the YouTube Music app for the watch, then there will be very convenient music on the watch. We are waiting. It is important that the watch has the most ordinary watch straps measuring 20 mm. It's easy to change, choose any one and use it, and the complete strap is probably silicone with a metal clasp. The watch is connected to the smartphone via the VRUS app. Through this application, the Google account must be transferred to the watch. In this application, you can configure the basic parameters, select a dial, configure notifications from applications, swap widget cards, view power consumption, free memory and other things. The second watch app is the OBO. It can do a lot of what Google's app does, but, of course, it has more features. It has all the necessary fitness functions, data on activities, workouts, sleep is stored, sleep is tracked in quite detail, with phases, but it seems to me that my bracelet, for example, will have better accuracy. Of course, the application has data on measurements of oxygen, pulse, noise and stress. Let me clarify that all this data can be viewed in full on the watch itself. Absolutely all statistics are available for viewing on this small display. In addition to all of the above, the application has the ability to share recordings from the voice recorder of the watch. This is a new recording of the dictaphone on the watch Mobvoi E3.
This is a new recording of the recorder.
And the ability to download screenshots of the watch to your smartphone. An interesting feature for me personally was that the workouts from the native app can be synchronized with more popular services like Rite and Runkeeper. And it seems to me that this feature will appeal to many runners or those who actively ride, for example, on a bike, because in order to post their workouts on the internet, it is not necessary to buy expensive Garmin watches. It is quite enough to have such modest and functional Mobvoi E3 with protection from moisture at the level of IP68. During training, the watch can accompany voice lessons, and even if it sounds quite funny, but it can also be very useful and convenient.
We have walked 4.01 kilometers 54 minutes 45 seconds, a total of 6,050 steps, a pulse of 108 Zine fat.
If any of you have previously been interested in the mobile model about 3 GPS, then one of the advantages of that model is cool autonomy up to real 3 days of use. And here, of course, is not 3 days of autonomy, because the battery of the watch is smaller, it is 380 mAh, but nevertheless, the watch holds a charge for more than 1 day. Although the manufacturer modestly indicates autonomy in 1 day. No, they kept me for 1.5, and sometimes even exactly 2 days. So in terms of autonomy, the watch is quite suitable for carefree use, although it's still not worth hiding the cable with a charging pad far away. And finally, briefly, to take or not to take this watch? For me personally, any watch is a story not only about functions, but also about design. And if you are confused about materials and design, then it is ideal for you to hold them in your hands before buying. The design of the watch seemed quite pleasant to me. It is minimalistic. Perhaps someone will not like a rather thick profile or a body without the use of metal. But I warn everyone at once in my reviews about such features, and therefore it is worth subscribing to my channel. Well, for those who care about functions, the watch will definitely like it. With its cool, smooth and fast work. There are all wireless interfaces here. They can be connected via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. There is NFC, Google Pay payment, which, by the way, should start working on the clock in Ukraine this month. It's very cool that the watch has a speaker and microphone. They can be used as a headset and not even take a smartphone in many situations. An example of what the sound will be when talking in 2 and 3 hours, if you use them as a headset now. Now the watch is about 30 to 25 centimeters away from my mouth directly, and, probably, this is about how your calls using the watch to any subscriber will sound in most cases. Well, another important feature for me is working with notifications. Here it is always clear from which notification application I see. For many applications, you can write responses to notifications right on your watch. Well, working with messengers is a separate pleasure. The same Telegram is just fantastic. You can use an almost full-fledged analog of the application directly from the watch and even send voice messages from the watch. I'm sending a voice message. This is done very simply. That's it. The message has been sent. You can listen to it.
I'm sending a voice message. This is done very simply.
Well, here on the smartphone it is also already possible to listen to it.
I'm sending a voice message. This is done very simply.
Leave all your questions about this watch in the comments, and don't forget about subscribing to my channel. Well, Roma was with you before the new videos. I just finished a training session with a watch in a Boat 3 and the result is like this. I compared them with a bracelet on the WB6. At 5 kilometers, the difference that the device reflects was 190 meters, that is, they counted the hours more. I ran them the same way in the same place. The watch apparently took data from its sensors, mostly from its GPS, and the Bend 6 bracelet, of course, takes data exclusively from a smartphone, since it does not have GPS. Here is the number of steps he counted calories. That's 7,700 and 550 calories. Here is a clock with 7,144 steps and 652 calories. This is about how the readings of the devices differ in these calculations.